Welcome back to the spring season where Rogue are looking to continue their undefeated streak today against Team BDS. Now, as we are preparing for the match, I think it is obvious to everyone that Rogue should be the heavy favorites coming into this game. They are currently undefeated. Yesterday, took down Mad in convincing fashion, but how heavy are they favorited today?
Pretty heavy. Like, probably a dumbbell I couldn't lift. I would say that, and trust me, there are many of them. I would say that Rogue as a team right now just seems to be firing on all cylinders. I'm just so surprised by how they function right now, because when I saw the announcement about Malrang, I was like, what will he do in this roster? How will he actually like fit or make this roster work? But not only is he very intelligent in terms of what he's doing on the map, where he's supposed to be, where he needs to be, like his lead performance yesterday was so good. But also then you tie into the fact that they're enabling comp, very similar in a way to the enabled Hans Summer. Larssen is now actually getting more resources based on yesterday's game than he typically gets. And we know that they can also play through Odoamne if they want to. So they're more diverse than they used to be. They still seem to have a lot of the same strengths that they had. Their macro is still very good. And so you're like, well, where's the weakness in this?
But hang on, you haven't even talked about Trymbi yet. And yesterday, and as well as all previous games, I mean, he's popping off as well.
I mean, I think that he's one of the major reasons why Rogue is also doing so well, because he's a multi-machine. You want him on an Enchanter, he performs. You want it in a Gate support, he performs. He took Blitzcrank out yesterday, took a roam around the map, instantly gave Rogue a super easy early game lead, put a lot of resources over towards Larssen. Onto that Victor, and then Larssen run them over on the champion. I mean, Trymbi has to be one of the focal points why Rogue's early game is so explosive, of course together with Malrang, but I feel like Trymbi is just not talked about enough.
Now, of course, when we do look at Rogue, right, their competition thus far, SK, Misfits, Astralis, and Mad Lions, it'll be the back half of spring where we'll start to see them competing against the Vitalities, the Fanatics next week, right? Today against BDS, still heavy favorited. I think as we're seeing this team fight rolling out, you know, Trouble, you talked about Larssen's Victor, and I know Vedius and I were joking a little bit. Across week 1, 0 K+8 14 minutes, and yesterday, Larssen not only shut everyone up in-game, but in the post-match interview as well. He was a bit saucy.
He certainly was. I think it was great to watch him. Like, the numbers speak for themselves. Obviously, he had a very good game, did earn player of the game as well. And I think that he's a player that many fans are still skeptical of, just because regular season Larssen has actually always been like a top 3 mid laner domestically. Playoffs Larssen is where we've seen the blunders, the Corki packages, the Orianna performances at Worlds. Like, it's when the games seem to matter is normally when we see Larssen falter. And I think that many fans are still, I know a lot of Rogue fans have been reading, they're like, listen, this is great. We're happy, we're optimistic. Let's just hope they can translate this into a playoff performance. Obviously, that's still a long way away, but you know, the fact that they can be thinking about that, I think is already in a great position to be in.
Okay, I'm going to give a little bit of light, because even when Larssen was not doing his best last week, and even though he was getting camped and dying a lot, and then he also mentioned on Twitter, he's like, man, I had to build double defensive items because I was sick and tired of dying. I think the team played so well around that fact that they tried to snowball top, they tried to snowball bot. So I'll agree with your initial point that there seems so much more diverse. So even if Larssen doesn't perform in one game, it's not the end of the world.
I mean, that's amazing. We've seen that across the 4 games played already. Now against BDS, we were looking at the bot lane specifically, looking at Comp and Trymbi, and they're going to be facing down, of course, xMatty and Limit. I mean, how difficult is this going to be a matchup for BDS?
Well, it's not going to be a great one. I think that when we look at one of the weak points of Matty, BDS, it has been Matty. He has struggled in terms of the 2v2 laning. Yesterday, he was kind of left isolated a lot, and he ended up getting punished. And I think that he's someone that is still finding his form on the LEC stage. And the way in which Rogue play a lot around comp, it wouldn't surprise me that if he is the point of attack this time round. And then when you think about how Adam will match up against Odoamne, we have seen that matchup before. We saw it last split. Fnatic was able to get a 3-0 over Rogue during the semifinals. So it's not like Adam is incapable of competing against Odoamne. The question is, will he be given the resources to do so? And will he be set up for success?
It's a little bit uncharacteristic from Matty as well, because even back in Keiko, when he was playing with Adam and Cinkrof, he was was used to playing the weak side. He was used to being left alone on his own device and then coming on later on to hypercarry the rest. But I think the focal point right now, even in BDS, it has to be the Adam Cinkrof duo. We've seen Cinkrof shadowing Adam the entire time, playing towards the top, playing ganks. And then we've seen a lot in BDS sort of creating that 4-man play where they will transition their bot lane topside, where Adam is strong, take that tower, then take the 4-man bundle, take it top, and open the map and sort of bleed their pressure through this. I think this could be a very easy mechanic for BDS to keep it like very simple, go for what they know so far, which is Cinkrof Adam, pressure top, then use that to open bot lane as well.
Is that going to be enough for BDS to take down Rogue if it goes to plan? Well, there we go. It's as simple as that, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. Team BDS have a gigantic mountain in front of them. I'm going to ask everyone to check their boarding passes, make sure that their assigned seating is available, because it is Caedrel and Drakos going to fly us into game.
We're changing our role play. Trevor, this is now the Church of European League of Legends, and I'm Father Drakos. This is my altar boy, Caedrel, and we'll be bringing you today's sermon about the strength of Rogue. Probably. Maybe about the strength of BDS, but it's looking very likely that it's going to be about the strength of Rogue. You heard it on the desk
I love how
already.
Vedius was like casually, absolutely not. This really cracked me up. I almost had to start laughing when the camera came to us already.
There's a threshold for Vedi where you can tell he's just like, he's 100% confident.
Yeah.
Does not give a dang, let's say, to keep it wholesome.
He was absolutely
That's peak Vedi right there. He knows.
I love Vedi. All right.
I think it's true. I think it's a pretty reasonable expectation to set. I think BDS is the big underdogs here, and as we head to picks and bans, we'll have to see what they can bring to the table today.
I think the biggest thing for me in Rogue is Trymbi. I was watching a lot of their voice comms on their YouTube channel, the Rogue voice comms. Trymbi is so vocal in their games. And you can say Malrang's English is, well, hit or miss. I think he's learning English throughout the year. He has played in the West before, so his English is getting there, but he can't communicate only really basic things. League of Legends terms. Comp's a bit quiet. Larssen's a bit quiet. Odoamne is playing top lane, so yeah, he's not really in the game for the first 15 minutes. So Trymbi has to step up, and he really does in the comms. You can really hear it every single play. Trymbi's just on it.
And I love tracking the development story of Trymbi, because remember last season, last year, Trymbi was the guy who at first, coming in with rookie, wasn't super confident. Then in summer was talking a bit too much. They needed him to step back. And it seems like with the departure of Inspired and Hansama, he has again stepped up to be a hugely vocal member of the team, which is something you absolutely need in a format as volatile as Best of One.
Yeah, I love the story of Trymbi. Just coming in last year, if you think about it, that when he first joined the league, he was getting caught out a lot, making mistakes, disjointed with the team. And then, like you said, he was trying to be a bit too vocal. Vayne, you know, just really screaming things a bit too loud, maybe taking up too much of the comms in stressful games. But now, a year later, I feel like he's fixed those mistakes and he's becoming such a well-rounded, almost like leader for this Rogue team, who is yet to lose a single game. Bans coming out already. Renekton's still up. See if BDS want to target that champion. We've still got Jinx, Aphelios, Thresh available in the LCK. Karma first pick is so prevalent. We also see Yuumi first rotations from teams like Gen.G, where Lehen's really high prios that champion. But we're going to get Jinx for xMatty this time around. Thresh, Jarvan still. We'll see if we see those are contested.
And as you've heard from the desk, xMatty struggling a little bit. Want to see more from this player. Getting a first pick Jinx certainly sets him up to do so, especially if they also prioritize a premier support pairing. That said, in the bans, a lot of mid-lane focus, to the surprise of no one. Larssen has been a big factor. NUCLEARINT also a big factor, but now we're seeing a very aggressive bottom laner come out in the Lucian. You expect the Nami pairing almost always to follow here, as it feels like it has the strongest synergy.
I mean, Larssen did play a little bit of Lucian last year. We saw Xiaohu play Lucian mid once. Now, as much as this champ got moved to bot lane, you could say it's a flex perhaps for Rogue, but yeah, if it's Lucian Nami locked in, it's definitely going bot lane. I tried to hype up a little bit of red side Lucian flex there, but no, it's just such a strong AD carry now and doesn't very pair well on its own.
And we heard yesterday in the interview with Laure, Larssen said, dripping with sarcasm, but the words that came out of his mouth were, no, I only play scaling mid, I just sit back. And he said he'd let the results on the Rift be the proof that we needed to see, that he can do more, that he can play more when he needs to. We'll see if that's going to be the case today. It doesn't look like the Lucian flex, so we'll find out what he wants to keep his focus on. Yuumi would be surprising, I'll be honest. That feels like nightmare bot lane status. I feel like
if you're going to lock in Jinx Yuumi on blue side 1-2, you're asking for a Jarvan on 3, and I really worry for that kind of composition. But Jinx Lulu wouldn't be too bad. We'll see what they opt into, but Lee Sin picked up for Cinkrof, expecting Malrang to match jungle. And yeah, I think the only Lucian we've seen in solo lane is Xiaohu on RNG, who's just recently scroll swapped to mid lane. So he's just such a strong AD carry now, and yeah, I mean they should have a dominant bot lane. I don't really know what support you can pick here other than things like Karma, but you get out sustained. But they're just going to go for an engage support, accept that they've lost the 2v2 and play for the 3v3. We'll see what Malrang wants to go for. We've seen his Jarvan, we've seen his Trundle, we've seen his Xin Zhao. All three of them would work here. Jarvan, the worst of the three in terms of 1v1 against Lee Sin.
Do have the luxury of counterpick as well for the top side, but you expect it has to be the pick for jungle. Really taking their time though. I think blind Jayce, you now have the option to ban away 2 of the potential counter picks here, and Adam is generally a guy, we know he has more up his sleeve, but you kind of know the general Adam picks when it comes to champion pool, so they can just limit that and take it away. I always prefer red side counter, but I like that they're giving it to Larssen here.
Yeah, just leaving jungle. I mean, they probably said, Malrang said, look, I've got Xin Zhao, Jarvan, and I've got Trundle. You can let me drop even Viego if I want. The Jayce pick is interesting because the Irelia ban comes out, and that's what I was just going to talk about. When you're banning out top laners, you have to think, what are you going to play against? Well, Adam's played Irelia once this split already, but then you're playing Irelia Lee Sin, not great setup together, double AD, top jungle, not the greatest, especially if you're going to flex to Jayce in last pick top on 5. Gwen could be another good ban for Rogue because what Lee Sin wants is double AP lanes. You look at the XL game, Marcoon, Lissandra mid, Malphite top. Okay. So much CC, so much setup. Everyone has to build Merc treads, and you're the only 80 damage for your team, so that's just like a Lee Sin's wet dream.
I was going to say, you're never allowed to bring that example up again, because that's literally the only time we'll ever see a Lee Sin that happy in draft ever.
Oh man, all he has to do is press Q on the target that's ulted, and they're just dead.
It's the montage is made for you. Literally, other people hold them down, and you get to run up and kick them and pretend like you did all the work.
Yeah, definitely is. And I think Trundle on 4 would be really big here for Rogue because the enemy team already has a Leona. What did we see in that XL game again? Malphite into Jayce, which is an EU classic. I think you remember Bwipo picking the Malphite with the thumbs up. Just a classic pick, Malphite into Jayce, especially if you have a Leona on the team. Trundle on 4 just kind of negates the Malphite pick and also does well into the Leona. So I think Team BDS banning out Trundle here could do a lot of work.
And while we do see a decent amount of physical damage already, Nami is going to give a little bit more magic damage coming out for the Lucian as well. Sion was the last pick that Adam brought out into the Jayce previously. Now that was against an incredibly AD-heavy composition, which can't imagine Rogue are going to go for. We will have to wait and see, but that was his previous option. Tanks certainly never feel too bad, but Malphite has that sense of inevitability with that AoE ultimate that's a little bit easier to pull off than the Malphite or than the Sion, even if the laning phase is weaker.
So the reason I think they should have banned Trundle here is because now you lose your Malphite 4-5 pick if they do pick it. And if they were to pick Jarvan, then you have a winning 1v1. Lee Sin beats Jarvan, and Lee Sin is very mobile into the Jarvan. You could pick Gwen on 4-5 also does well into Jarvan, and you're playing into double AD top jungle. Now you're against the Trundle, so blinding top becomes a lot harder. Blinding Sion, like we saw Adam pick into Jayce, yes, it's a good matchup for the Sion, and he was solo killing Hirit, I believe it was. But now you're up against the Trundle pillar if you try to ult into the backline. You're ulted as well, so now top lane now has to be a Gwen, it feels like, or some kind of carry for Adam.
And Trundle just feels so good against a lot of the immobile options that are left. Jinx already locked in. That pillar is going to feel so strong. Akali now coming out, expecting this to be the tank build in the top lane. Has been nerfed on 12-2, but 12-1 still very much OP. That said, Team BDS really taking their time here. Want to see what Larssen's going to bring out as the last pick. I'm just going to note right here that there's not a ton of reliable hard engage options for the side of Rogue. So it's going to be a very execution-heavy game for Rogue. They are set up to dominate in a lot of these lanes. They have a lot of strengths in their composition, but it is definitely not a simple composition to play.
It's going to be Akali mid. We saw Chovy play Akali mid today in the LCK. He went full AP damage. But he had a lot of dive with him, things like Jarvan diving in, he had a lot of follow-up as well. This feels like you've got at least in Leona next to you, so they're going to have to pull a lot of their weight in the team fight so that the Akali can clean up, because Akali's not an engager, and the Graves can't really do much either. He's almost like a frontline, kind of bruiserish tank with the lifesteal build, so Jayce into Graves top. Graves will be slightly favored because of the grid, but Ryze last pick here for Larssen, who should have mid push into the Akali and needs to make sure he moves towards them around the map. What Rogue have here is a very 2021 Rogue draft. Winning top, winning bot, a jungle with tempo and wins out 1v1. Very early game kind of snowbally comp that I think they'll look to play around both side lanes. Malrang and Larssen moving around the map.
Well, yeah, and I really like that you have a Ryze who's generally a little bit shorter range when it comes to reliably landing those combos, but you're against an Akali and a Graves. It feels like a perfect setup. You've got the Jayce on the top side who might struggle against the armor and lifesteal stacking, but we know that long-range poke can come through as well. So again, it feels like a lot of pressure as we get later into the game on xMatty to be this big, reliable source of damage to really make this BDS composition come together.
Yeah, Rogue have so many options. Malrang and Larssen can go top, help the Jayce lane, get him ahead, win-win. Go bot, get the Lucian Nami lane ahead and out of lane, win-win. Whereas it feels like BDS, they need to use the Jinx, Leona, Lee Sin to shut the Lucian Nami down. They need to kind of unlock their mid laner, unlock NUCLEARINT on the Akali at level 6 to shut the top side down. So I feel like Rogue have all the options and BDS need to slow them down.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely going to be Interesting to see if this version of Rogue, with the momentum behind them, with the strength they've already proven in Best of One, can continue the legacy of the previous Rogue Kings of Best of One. I think I speak for many, many people when I say we're still also waiting to see how they're going to do in Best of 5, since that was the one area where the previous Rogue iteration faltered. But it is a long way away, and sadly, the game is also going to be delayed a little bit. Due to some tech issues at the start of the game, we're going to have a delay before we hit the Rift. In the meantime, we are going to head over to the Analyst desk.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you very much. Thank you very much, Drakos and Caedrel. Stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. I am joined by Prime Vedius, as it was claimed, because apparently you're quite banterful today. And yes, we do have some technical issues, so we will have a little bit of time to break down the draft. Let's get that onto your screen as quickly as possible. And it does look like we'll have the pick order as well, which is great. And I'm going to go straight to Optimus himself.
Optimus himself. All right, so let's kind of just, because we have some time, let's really do some dissection of the draft. So the bans are always interesting in the current meta because right now there are certain champions that you kind of have to remove, or at least in Europe are considered must bans. Twisted Fate and Caitlyn are two of the highest banned champions in our league. The next one is LeBlanc, considered very high pro, which surprises me a little bit because I feel like that in Europe, at least, she's not that effective, especially when we are erring more towards the side of scaling. However, the Larssen and the Corki ban, the Larssen. I saw Victor. I saw Victor, and my brain went Larssen. You know what I mean? Like that is what I meant, though. Victor is specifically directed towards Larssen, simply due to how strong the champion is in the current meta, but also because of how proficient he is. And then the removal of the Diana surprised me a little bit, but I do wonder if that was just one of those, well, when we are in a very scaling meta, she's one of the champions that scales very well and also gives very easy setup with the Yasuo in the mid lane as well. So I think the bans make a lot of sense. We do see some targeted bans towards throwing either side, and I think that it then sets up for a lot of actually strong champions to be left up and available.
Well, B1 Jinx. I think it's a running meme. If you watch the NLC as well, we put the binoculars on every time the Jinx is open and every time she's picked. It's like, wow, what a surprise. I feel like what is a big surprise here, though, is that putting XMatty on the strong side of the map. They've got the Leona right next to him, and they have a Larssen. So you want to play towards the bot side of the map, and like Caedrel mentioned, you want to shut down that Lucian Nami lane that can very easily snowball, right? Now, this is something that is slightly controversial because we talked about xMatty's performances so far that haven't been the greatest, and hopefully now he has what he needs with the Leona and the Larssen to play towards that.
And I think that I completely agree with you because I think that this also could be a huge confidence booster for xMatty. Yeah. We also know that Limit, what he was most well known for was actually his engaged champions. When you put him on stuff that can actually start fights, they're best set up for success. So perhaps they want to try and play more towards xMatty, and we'll see how that works out. The thing about Rogue's comp overall is that by prioritizing the Lucian Nami, as the caster said, that just gives them a strong 2v2 that they can play around, but don't actually have to if they don't want to. Because when you draft yourself Ryze, Trundle, Jayce, this is actually a very typical Rogue, right? Yeah. You kind of have like winning lanes across the board. You have champions that can actually do very well in isolation or with support. And also, it's very good at playing around side lanes. It was a style that was actually very effective for them in the past and actually cost them in their finals against Mad Lions because they had this really big advantage. They tried to play around, but then they kept grouping to team fight. Yeah. So we'll see how much evolution they've made in that department because we know that Rogue, as an organization, very good at playing through sides, enabling your side lanes, and then effectively playing the map as you approach the mid to late game.
I am hearing we are less than a minute from going back to game, so knowing that we have just a little bit of time, I want you to predict who will be the winner of this game now that we've seen the draft. I know we said heavy favorites for Rogue, but what do you make of
I significantly prefer Rogue's draft. I think it's much easier to execute, and I also think it fits within their wheelhouse and a lot more comfortable. This Akali pick, in this situation in mids, I'm not a fan.
And now you can take as much time as you like, Georgia, as fortunately we do have another pause again. I should not have said what I said. That was a mistake. I jinxed it. It was a mistake on my part. But I will still ask you for a prediction based on the draft. And we'll talk a little bit about maybe what decisions we'd like to see in-game.
Okay, so I really like Rogue's draft as well, just because they have 3 roles they can play towards. Mid, top, bot lane, whatever you choose to go with, you do that. And I think it's much easier to shut down Team BDS that way because it's very clear that they want to play towards the bot side of the map. Now, you do have a very strong 2v2 into the Leona Jinx, but here's the thing. I feel like Leona Jinx versus Nami Lucian is like whoever pulls the trigger first can 100-0 each other.
Sure.
If the Leona does get onto the Nami poof disappears.
Yeah.
But on the other way around, if you allow the Lucian Nami to do the poke on you, unfortunately the Jinx and Leona lane doesn't have any sustain to go through all that poke.
I think that once the Leona like burns her combo, you're then kind of like out of gas effectively,
Yeah.
and then you get chased down with the Lucian army. So it's if you basically aren't committing to the play, it can be very dangerous for you in the bot 2v2. What I will say is that, because if we have a little bit more time.
So we have plenty more time. Plenty more time right now.
Okay.
I will not make any more statements that'll get me in trouble.
So I am a big Akali fan. I've been playing her a lot.
Really?
No way.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. The thing about her is her laning phase just sucks. Her Q at level 1 costs 130 energy, and at level 4 is the first time you put a second point in it, right? So because of that, her wave clear just sucks, her ability to trade just sucks, and she can't really do much. So the reason why champions like Ryze are especially good into her during the laning phase is because her already weak wave clear is made even worse when a champion that can very quickly push the wave very early on forces you to sit underneath your tower. This then gives Larssen an opportunity to roam. Now, a lot of people think of Larssen as this traditional mage player, but my counter argument to that is his Twisted Fate and his Ryze. Both of these champions are actually like heavy roam style champions that TF is actively banned away from Larssen when they're on blue side because of how proficient he is. And I think last split, he only lost like a game on it throughout the entire season.
A lot of expectation being built up for this matchup.
I know, but my point is that like, if you give Larssen the ability to roam, he's not going to waste that opportunity, which is why I actually expect them to attack top. I really think that their whole game plan is actually to shut Adam down. And I think that as a player, to me, he seems quite emotional. And like, while I think he does have quite a strong mental, if you just keep ganking him, to me, he's the type of player that you can like,
get under his skin.
Yeah, you can get under his skin. And I feel like Odoamne is also the type of player that will read that.
And relish.
Yeah, and
relish in that.
He's the type that when he gets a bunch of ganks, he'll type in all chat, just smile, you know?
I do get that vibe as well. I do get that vibe as well.
So my impression of Rogue is that their whole early game plan is they're going to heavily leverage their early mid control into like a lot of trying to shut Cinkrof down, counter jungling, stealing away his camps, into then attacking the top side of the map.
All right, I'm really glad you brought up Cinkrof. I do want to come to him and talk a little bit about what you'd like to see on his Lee Sin. But just as a very brief update, if you are just joining us, due to connection issues, we've had a few separate pauses from Rogue. League officials are currently working to solve the issue, and we will keep you updated as soon as we are able to go back into game. Now, as the pause was coming in, we knew we had an estimated amount of time to fill, and Vedius said, we can do it all and pick some bans.
I mean, so you want to talk more on draft?
We're going to try a little bit. No, I mean, look, implications and then coming out of draft, right? We haven't seen any gameplay yet on broadcast, so I want to bring some attention to Cinkrof and this Lee Sin. It was the second pick on the blue side for BDS, and Cinkrof is a player that we have praised a fair amount. He's on a champion that can have an impact, and if he can get, limits Leona to be able to land some of these engages, the shotgun composition could get rolling.
So I feel like Cinkrof is one of the most active junglers that we have in the league right now, reading a lot of the ganks, counter ganking as well. And I feel like we saw before with Marcoon and Advent that when the Leona left the lane, bundled up with the Lee Sin, they did incredible things and they snowballed the Lee Sin. Now, the only problem is you have a Jinx down the bot lane. You can't just necessarily leave her alone to her own devices. So I'd like to see one of the two approaches. One is the one that we saw from Misfits with Zlatan. They're like, we have scaling. We have Graves, we have Akali, we have Jinx. We scale into the late game, then we have engage, disengage with Leona, and then we use the Lee Sin to make plays. Or two, you try to get one of your lanes ahead. You use the Leona Lee Sin towards the bot side of the map to shut down the Namis. It's very squishy together with Lucian. Grab one or two flashes, and that means that the Lucian Nami lane will never be able to push forward because it will always be in fear of a counter gank.
It really feels to me like BDS are dancing on a very fine line. Because this comp can either work and look beautiful, or you look at the tools that Rogue have, both with the mobility, the ability to push lanes. But
I just think it's so hard.
He's trying.
It was fine with the first half of the draft with like Jinx, Lee, Leona. The core in and of itself is good. And that's also why when you heard Caedrel talking about like, his expectations to the game. He kept focusing on this trio because it makes sense as a trio. Like, you have good setup, you have good engage, you have easy follow-up, that's fine. But when you then lump in an Akali and a Graves, you're like, well, what is their function in this comp? Because, so they're both relatively short range. Yes, Akali has a lot of mobility, but the reality is that they basically have to come to you in order to fight. Trundle Pillar already makes that difficult, okay? And bear in mind that they saw the Trundle beforehand.
Correct.
So Trundle's Pillar is either going to force you to Graves Dash early or going to force you to use your Akali mobility, not necessarily the way that you want, or Akali dives in and now there's a pillar between your Akali and your team and they're all like, hi Akali, and then she's sitting in a shroud in the middle of 4 people being like,
and then a wave and some bubbles.
And so and then you're like, well, okay, well, so how does the Akali function in this situation? Well, okay, the one way in which it functions is that if you do go for the chem tank build, and even if you go for the damage build, you're probably actually going to outscale on a side lane. You can probably kill both the Jayce and the Ryze in a 1v1. Great. So then what does your 4-man look like? Well, it's fine. I mean, like, sure, it's okay. But then you're also relying on being able to leverage that 4-man to then set the Akali up for success. And for Akali to be a threat in the side lane, she then also has to get resources so that she can be strong enough in a side lane, which, as we just talked about in the Ryze matchup, she's not going to get in the early game. Like, that Ryze is just going to keep her under tower, and Akali's not going to get to play the game. At level 6, there is a window with which Lee and Akali can 100% kill this Ryze.
That window closes quickly.
That window does close quickly because the moment the Ryze gets Everfrost, he suddenly becomes a lot harder to kill. He could even go Crown. I don't expect it, but he could, which will just make it even harder to then kill him. So I just, I have concerns because I think these two champions...
Really? I couldn't tell.
But like, one of the themes that we often talk about, especially when many teams are coming back to the LEC, is like keeping it simple, right? And I think that like the first half of Team BDS's draft is really simple and straightforward and easy to execute. And then they just made it way more complicated with the Graves and the Akali. I'm not sitting there and saying that it's impossible, because it's not. There are obviously ways, if they're really good, that they could win with this draft. It's just they've made it much harder for themselves.
I want to ask Georgia a question. When I come back to you, Georgia, can you tell me, what do you think you want to see from BDS to consider, like, I don't know, something positive from this, right? Because this is a difficult thing. Like,
Okay, that just has put a lot of doubts in my head right now.
I'm aware. It's a difficult question. Now, production, if you can bear with me, I would like to get Vedius on a single, and I would like to ask Vedius very quickly, just to explain what KISS means, right? Now, this is unrelated to any of the players or any of the teams, and I'm not commenting on anything. I just think the concept really needs to be locked down. So, write down the lens.
Okay. So, back in my psychology degree, we learned a fundamental concept when it came to developing studies, when it came to developing our understanding of human behavior. And the core concept was, our lecturer said it was proposed by Einstein, which it wasn't, I'm pretty sure, which is the KISS concept, which is keep it simple, stupid, right? And the whole principle is that if you do not have the skill or the competency to be able to execute something complicated, then why not just keep it simple and achieve very similar results? There's no need to overcomplicate something when you can keep it simple. So in this context, especially when we talk about drafting, what we mean by that is, in a scaling meta that often revolves around a lot of team fighting, dragons, heralds, barons, all that shazam, then why not just keep it simple? Stupid.
Okay, that was fantastic, and thank you. It has been a narrative throughout the week. I'm giving you the unenviable task of saying, what would you consider success here? Now, we've already seen moments or glimmers that we like from BDS in their previous games. We already know how difficult this task is, how challenging this comp is to execute. So what would you consider sort of a win or something that'll be positive for the BDS players to take away from this? Under the assumption that all of these challenges are hard and Rogue end up winning.
Yeah, so I kept thinking about what Vedius kept saying is like, Akali dives in, pillar in your face, and I'm like, so usually Jinx is the kind of ADC that will like sweep up the pieces at the end and try to get all of the resets. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, but this is Akali's job here. But then who does the damage at the start? Because Jinx definitely has to play further back because Lucian is dangerous. Jayce is going to be poking a lot, and then you can't run into Ryze necessarily. Graves is also very short range, so he can't do the job for you. So who's the one doing the damage and who's the one doing the cleanup? I feel that at this point, xMatty might have to do the damage, die for it, and then allow Adam to do the, NUCLEARINT to do the cleanup onto the Akali. This is the one way that I see it happening. Or you just played the peeling composition. You just kept on going backwards because you do not have the range to fight with the Ryze, to fight with the Jayce.
Tough to do that with the tools they have. Vedius, I'll give you a chance to jump in a moment. I do just want to give the viewers a brief update that if you are just joining us, we have had multiple connection and technical related issues at the start of Team BDS versus Rogue. We are currently still paused in-game and waiting for that game to resume. League officials are working with the respective teams as we speak, and we'll keep you updated.
So you're
as
just listening to me complain about the draft, basically. So the bright side, or the optimist, could sit there and argue, well, Rogue's comp doesn't have a reliable engage, which is true. It also isn't actually that tanky. You could argue that Trundle's pretty tanky, and like his ult is pretty good against champions like Graves too, because you can steal their resistances, and you can like soak up a lot of damage and cause a lot of disruption. But the reality is that they actually need to, if they want to fight, close that gap. And when you have things like the thin kick, which can be used to disengage, you then also have the smoke screen, which can be used to disengage. You have the flame chompers, which can be used to create zone. And it could, in theory, be hard for Rogue to actually get within range to do the damage. But that's also thinking purely from the perspective of a team fight. And that's also purely from the perspective of if both teams are looking at each other and they're trying to attack each other almost like in a front-to-back situation. But then it comes back to then Rogue's core strength as a composition, which is that like they can play through sides pretty easily. They have 2 strong side lanes. I think that one of Ryze's biggest advantages is that he can overextend thanks to his Realm Warp, which means that he can push all the way down to your tier 2. If he thinks he's about to get collapsed on, Realm Warp back. Oh, my team's just started Baron. I can start pushing again because I still have my TP. What are you going to do? Like, these are the type of tricky maneuvers that a team like Rogue was always very good at when you had Inspired and Hans. And remember that it was Larssen and Odo that would be responsible for this. And those core elements are still here. And this is the type of comp that I think they're very comfortable with. So yeah, I'm obviously not painting a great picture for BDS, and I'm obviously very skeptical. Not. And like, I'm open to acknowledge that I could be very wrong. So I hope that also Grabs can give us some insight on the Akali and Graves lock-in.
Well, we won't be able to just yet because it turns out we are ready for game. Let's jump into Team BDS versus Rogue. Kiss.
Wow. Trevor, a lot of historic Trevor moments come down to Kiss. Trevor kissed me, keep it simple, stupid. A lot of kiss moments in Trevor's career.
That was 2.
That was, well, I mean, how many do you need? What's a normal amount?
How many times did they kiss?
The great esports mystery we may never have the answer to. What we can do is cast a game of League of Legends for you, as we're moments away now from heading into game.
A lot of thoughts on draft.
I was going to say, I could tell you about the only thing we really have to talk about right now, which is draft, but we kind of just did that. Our friends did that, and we'll do it again, I'm sure, when we get into game. But now we just have to see how these teams play the draft.
Yeah.
That said, I want to recap in case you have been gone and you are just coming back. One of the things that you brought up, Caedrel, is Trymbi. And I think we want to keep our eyes on Trymbi in this game because he has been a huge catalyst. He's been a huge voice. But this time he's playing Nami. So we're going to have to see what he can do because it's time, finally, BDS versus Rogue.
League of Legends!
It's all I wanted. It's all I've been waiting for.
Ooh, a lot of spicy runes, spicy stuff going on. We've got First Strike on Odoamne's Jayce. We've got Ignite with Electrocute bot lane, full all-in, full kill lane. Cleanse coming out from comp, Exhaust on Maddie, no heal bot. It's Armageddon.
It is absolute Armageddon. And I think we have to talk about something briefly. While there's nothing happening.
We could talk about anything.
I think we should talk about Ryze a little bit because we did see it in the LCK. You were pointing out a creative build to me. I think you should run us through it. It's like the new version of the Doinby Classic, I feel like.
Yeah, it's just with the new items coming in. Fimbulwinter especially. Chovy was doing it today. Showmaker was doing it today. Ryze is like such high priority in the LCK. T1 is even first picking it, but I think, I might be wrong here with the stat, but I think in the LCK it's like 0-6 or 0-7, just losing every game. But the build itself looks pretty strong. You're like a bruiserish Ryze. Everfrost, Fimbulwinter, the 2 core items, and then we saw, I think, a Force of Nature today alongside a Frozen Heart, so 4 tank items. And of course, with the changes to Seraphs, now being ability haste based on your mana, it's not as valuable for Ryze. So going for health with the new Fimbulwinter is just better. The EW combo gives you the shield. So tank Ryze is kind of like the flavor of the month build right now.
Certainly. We'll say we've gotten used to seeing Conqueror on that build, and it is Phase Rush for Larssen. So we'll see what the itemization choice is. He could still go either way, but Conqueror, the much more conventional choice for that tank build, Phase Rush, more traditional AP Ryze.
So about the Conqueror and Phase Rush on Ryze, hang on a second, Trymbi, we'll be trading a bit. About the Conqueror and Phase Rush reasoning, I think the Conqueror was taken because he was against 3 melee champs. He was against Renekton mid as well, so more value from Conqueror because you're a tank Ryze with Conqueror, a lot more bruiserish in team fights. And then the Phase Rush is also good in this game because against Akali, Lucian, really good mobility is probably what you want to escape the engage. So
something worth tracking in good news is that it has a single win in LCK, at least. It's 1-6.
1-6, okay. I knew
so,
it. Okay.
So it's not completely winless. We'll see what Larssen can do on it. I feel like they've got a good combo here, as Rogue are currently 4-0. We'll see if they can make a 5-0. BDS obviously going to look to bring that back. And for now, as expected, the Lucian Nami lane taking over the bottom side, keeping that pressure up. Ready to see what Malrang and Cinkrof can do in this early game. You can see Malrang falling a little bit behind in terms of jungle pacing.
So 2 things to note from draft. I think there was a lot of opinions flying around the desk, and I think all of them I definitely agreed with. And I think that the problem Rogue's comp has is as good as it is, it also has a flaw in the fact that it's kind of too good on winning lanes, right? So where can jungle be? Malrang can path bot and play for 3v3 bot because they have engaged, but that leaves your Jayce on a weak side. So Malrang's gonna have to juggle 2 winning side lanes, and the best way to do that is play through mid, because your mid laner can move to the other side that needs to be covered, right? So Malrang and Larssen could move together towards bot and 4-man dive, or Malrang could hover around bot, and Larssen can play defensive towards top side and hold his ultimate in case they try to cross map. The second issue I see is they don't really have any point-and-click lockdown CC. The Akali should kind of run rampant in fights, unless Larssen can land the route. I expect NUCLEARINT to go for Merc Treads early, perhaps in this lane, and then that's a little bit of tenacity on the route. There's no real like Nautilus, Leona, or anything really threatening the Akali, unless Trymbi can land a bubble or get the ult across. So Odoamne looks for Adam. So I think that's the only real worry I have for Rogue in teamfights, but still, they have so much damage that should make up for it.
Absolutely do. We've seen a lot of teams play very simple compositions. Excel, a prime example earlier today. It certainly worked out. The Lissandra Malphite combo, very powerful, very straightforward execution. Rogue's composition, certainly not one of them. The same is true from BDS's composition to a certain degree, but they have the luxury of the Leona, of a champion like Lee Sin, where you've always got some tools to make these plays happen. But I think naturally, from what you said, got to keep our eyes on NUCLEARINT. Not now, he's only level 4, but level 6, a few items under his belt. How this man plays team fights is going to be big because Rogue don't have reliable tools to stop him from devastating the backline.
Yeah, the important thing is the amount of single target damage burst BDS have. If you're isolated, if Larssen tries to walk into river and gets caught by Cinkrof, he's as good as dead the second they get on top of him. So it's all about gap closing with BDS's mid jungle, and Rogue just want to play it slow, push in waves, track jungle, things like this. Larssen is being really annoying towards Cinkrof, gives Malrang so much information and time to work with that he can decide what the next best play is. The ward will help out, spot Cinkrof move towards bot side, and Malrang can decide if he wants to match.
Certainly. And of course, Odoamne has been pretty comfortable playing weak side this entire season thus far, so no surprise to see him sitting under tower, farming comfortably, staying even. As long as Adam's not grabbing any tower plates, he shouldn't hurt too much. And you can see both top laners have been trading aggressively enough that neither one really has too much mana to their names. That said, Limit taking an opportunity here to move in to contest a little bit of vision. This would be risky, but they've got 2 members in the area. Malrang actually the one who needs to be careful here. Blast Cone there makes it hard for them to guarantee a kill. Might just be the Smite fight coming out here.
I think there's a really good communication here from Rogue. Trymbi's pinging Malrang back saying, don't take that 1v1. Leona is missing, and I don't think she's based, so be careful. So smart there by Malrang to wait for Trymbi. And Limit still yet to base, so a lot of tempo on bot lane here. If he can cancel the base of Limit, yes he can. Limit still yet to base. Rogue freshly out of base with Lucian Nami. This is going to hurt. BDS might need their jungle to bail them out because I think they're going to have to give up some waves soon if Rogue just play really aggressively down here.
But Cinkrof's already clearing towards the top side. You got the Noon Quiver completed for comp. He's going to burn through that wave so very quickly, and that means Malrang, easy start, easy decision to start this up because he knows his bot lane is stronger. He knows Lee Sin is on the top side, and it makes it so easy for them to keep up the pressure. This man cannot miss a Q.
Oh, the trading pattern is so clean from comp. Now you might say, well, let that wave push into it's frozen. No, it's better for them to push here because BDS still needs to take a base in their jungler's top side so they can farm plates, get a dragon. What can BDS cross-map for us? Odoamne's got good vision top side. Larssen might need to be careful though, but they don't have any lock-up CC. Larssen has Phase Rush too.
Level 6, they don't have any CC here. Cinkrof doesn't have any CC either, so Larssen just gets to walk away. Of course, the disconnection messages you're seeing now are relics of previous pauses. They don't reflect the current game state, so I know they're a bit obnoxious that you would probably rather not hear the Summoner's Rift's announcer voice over and over again, but don't worry, it doesn't actually mean anything for the game as we view it now. We'll keep you updated if there are any further tech issues, but we are currently proceeding smoothly.
Yeah, and I just want to mention the glimpse we saw there of the Ryze ult. The Akali versus Ryze matchup over side lane, if Akali can even win the matchup, Ryze can always ult out. Akali has no real lockdown to stop the Ryze from ulting out, so the way the side lane works is Ryze can push in the Akali, and if she ever decides to ult in, Ryze can worst case just realm warp out, trade ults, and then come back after base, so pretty beneficial. We'll need Lee Sin 6, Cinkrof, to actually cancel that. And yeah, I mean, you can see straight away 800 gold lead for Rogue, 3 winning lanes. All Malrang has to do is juggle his winning lanes and make sure he tracks the jungler, so good plays in bot lane so far from Rogue, especially 2 plates already under their belt. They're going to base again, come out of base again, and just look at the item difference between the AD carries. BDS need to group up with his jungle support, which are so good in skirmishes and shot to find some kills.
Yep, and they've got level 6 now on Cinkrof, which should make it that much easier. And while Rogue are taking off to a pretty solid early lead, as you highlighted, 600, 700 gold, so it starts to grow here. This was expected. We knew they were set up for success in the early laning phase. We knew this would happen with the Lucian Nami. Now we get to evaluate how Rogue grow this lead into something bigger. You expect it to be a pretty slow, steady, controlled game as they push these individual advantages a bit more, but keeping our eyes, keeping track, and crucially, Ward here, spotting out BDS, just waiting in the darkness.
Yeah, Rogue have all the options. BDS either have to match or just cross-map. The problem BDS have right now is it's almost 8 minutes in the game and Rogue have a stacking bot wave. What does that signal? 2 things. 1, they're going to 4-man dive bot. 2, they're going to move towards Herald. So BDS, what's your play? Do you send your jungler bot to cover the dive? Or do you send your jungler topside to go for Herald, but then their bot lane's on the way and your bot lane's catching the wave? So Rogue have all the cards right now, it's just how they play them.
Larssen has to be careful here. Cinkrof coming over the wall. If he connects on the kick, he's got the flash as well. Q will not hit. That's going to be big there. Stops that play in his track. Malrang already on the bottom side. Wave crashing in as well. Free prio here. That said, NUCLEARINT, Cinkrof already headed down. Yeah. Are going to back off.
Rogue a lot of information to work with. They saw jungle mid and they just put a ward. Odoamne warded over the wall onto the Herald. So again, now Trymbi could move with Malrang topside. They could stay around bottom, play for plates. They have all the options in the world, really.
And I want to take a moment to... Obviously, you can look at the scoreboard, you can see 4-0 for Rogue, and you know that they've been having a good season so far. But I do want to take a second to highlight their early game, because when you look at these 2 sets of numbers, Spring's a little bit worse, but not by that much. And I think that's so massive when you take into account that Malrang's just coming in, that Trymbi's had to step up big time as a shot caller, that Comp went from being benched on Vitality for a crown shot to now 4-0 kicking off a split. I think the rapid pace at which... You could call it a return to form, but it's different players. At which this Rogue roster has risen up and has clearly come out swinging is so good to see if you're a Rogue fan.
Yeah, definitely. I think it all comes off the back of Malrang, especially just going for non-stop ganks in the early game. Here again, we see the 4-man bot, the ward spotting Cinkrof on the Herald. Are they going to go for the dive?
Oh, that's going to be the knock-up on xMatty. Limit getting burned lower and lower. Ignite ticking. Trundle ult ticking down as well. NUCLEARINT level 8 and in the area. That's the TP down. Jumper's gone as well. Trymbi pretty fearless here. That is one eager fish to proc electrocute.
Okay, so TPUs, and of course, if you look at NUCLEARINT's build, he is going to go for the tank Akali build. Odoamne staying in the bush here.
Getting the full combo onto Adam is big. Adam might normally win an extended trade, but Odoamne going to swap back. First blood, solo. Bolo on the top side is clean from Odo.
And it's the only lane that's really been playing in isolation. Jayce versus Graves. We saw Adam pick this matchup himself, Graves into Jayce. And they've really been in isolation the whole game long. I don't think jungle has ever really threatened topside other than maybe Cinkrof taking that Herald and Odoamne having to respect it. Comes out on top in the 1v1. Eclipse finished already for Odoamne on the Jayce. And just catching Adam off guard. Maybe he fake based here, hit in the bush, got his full combo off. First strike procs, big damage. Quick kill and the flash from Adam. Odo just follows it. Plus 81 goals from the first strike as well.
And maybe in a longer, more extended fight, that armor starts to stack up for the Graves, that lifesteal starts to count. But if he gets to hit that 100% combo, both sides of the hammer form abilities, the empowered shock blast as well, Jayce burst just obliterates Adam. And now they're tied on mythics, but Odoamne is already stacking that tier.
Yeah, I have to sing a little bit of praises for Odoamne these past 2 weeks because we see the same Rogue of old where we'll leave top. Top can sort itself out. Odo's fine. He'll manage. Not only is he fine in managing, but he's actually winning his lane in a lot of these instances. So props Odoamne there. BDS slowly running out of options. It sounds doom and gloom and everything's all the praise is going towards Rogue here, but they have 3 winning lanes. They do kind of outscale if these lanes do get ahead. They're hitting all the plates on all the towers. They're getting a solo kill top. BDS haven't even found anything yet other than a Herald, which they're going to have to use soon, so I hope BDS starts to group up their jungle support. Level 6 Leona, level 7 Lee Sin, if they can get to those ultimates available and maybe look for something towards topside. Odoamne no flash, cross-map the bot lane because they know they can't fight this Drake, and then get the Graves ahead.
Yeah, and when we talk about BDS, I think I naturally have started looking towards Cinkrof and NUCLEARINT. Not necessarily the players I expected to be looking at the start of the season, but Cinkrof has had some incredibly explosive games. And BDS needs some of that here. NUCLEARINT, a similar story. We're waiting on some of that itemization. He is going for tank Akali, interestingly enough. Feels like it could be rough with the Trundle on the opposite side, but the build is incredibly powerful right now. It's nerfed on 11.2, which means you know it's overtuned on 11.1, the patch we're currently playing on. Comp stepping forward, big damage. Limit again taking a ton. That's going to be the knockback there. Limit now locked up, trying to turn it back. Comp flashing away, lands in the trap. That's not where you want to be. Panics a little bit, and it's going to cost him his life. But Larssen now coming in. Cinkrof coming down to the bottom side as well. xMatty trying to flash out, but he flashes right into the bubble. It's clean from Trymbi, but it's clean response from Cinkrof. He's debating. His body's telling him no, but the mind's, yes, rather. The mind's going to win out in the end.
Yeah, BDS end up fighting this and getting a 2 for 2 out of it. Going in against Cinkrof.
Dashing forward, going for the kick to knock him back. Malrang now stepping in. That is one strong Trundle. The pillar gonna stop Cinkrof's escape.
So Rogue get 3 kills in the end, and props to BDS's bot lane. They're actually trading 1 for 1 in such a disadvantageous 2v2, losing out, but actually getting a kill onto Comp. Larssen has the mid push, comes in and gets the kill. Good map read by Cinkrof to run straight through bot to match this play. And Adam went towards mid, so Odoamne's been farming plates in top all this time.
And it's just, at the end of the day, little things for BDS, but it still feels like the bigger advantage goes over to the side of Rogue.
Yeah, look at the amount of vision Larssen has through mid. As soon as he pushes in the wave, he walks down, pinks everywhere, but the 2v2 kicks off. Comp actually takes down Limit with no flash, but look at his positioning. Gets ignited, has to cleanse away, dodges the rocket with the flash, but the auto from Matty takes him out. And here comes Larssen, full mid push. Easy move towards there. NUCLEARINT very far behind, but good map read from Cinkrof to realize that this play was happening. E-flash to pick up Trymbi, just a little bit of an overextension here to go on to Malrang. I think he tries to drop a ward jump to kick him into NUCLEARINT, but I think he messes it up a little bit here. Larssen flashing away, doesn't get the distance to get the kick because he doesn't have flash.
And at that point, you're going to kick one away, but the other one's probably going to kill you, so certainly a difficult situation.
There's
now, immediately, though, the pace staying pretty high here. Rogue on the top side, trying to mess with the Herald.
Ooh, if this Herald doesn't crash, that's a disaster.
Herald versus Pillar. Oh, no.
That hurts. That could have been 2 plates over to BDS. At least 320 gold goes into their pockets. But that won't happen. Platings will fall. Herald will die. Now Rogue has unlocked the map by putting their bot lane mid. Larssen's farming jungle camp, so juggling resources all across the map. And with the Everfrost build up for Larssen, expecting him to go towards a Fimbulwinter build. But I checked his solo queue games and he was going Seraph, so I'll hold my breath for now.
Ooh. And it's not just the builds that we have to hold our breath over. I like seeing tank Akali. I like seeing tank Ryze. Well, like is a relative term. I like seeing it in games I'm casting, not so much in games I'm playing. But right now for BDS, this just sucks, Caedrel. It felt like they had a decent read on the bot side play. Cinkrof there a little late, but they managed to make some good stuff happen. But that Herald going against them, the plates dropping topside in favor of Odoamne. Now we're at 14 minutes, all the plates are gone, and Rogue are sitting on 2,500 gold lead and 2 Drakes. Now keep in mind, due to some of the issues that we had earlier, you're not going to be able to see that Infernal Drake, but Rogue do currently have Infernal and a Cloud. We're working towards a Chemtech Soul, which is certainly a scary prospect, as we've seen across this week.
Yeah, chipping away at the tier 1s. Odoamne might get this tier 1 tower on this wave. See if he has W. No, he doesn't. So he's going to have to get it on the next one. Malrang's hovering around to make sure that happens. And now Rogue have kind of unlocked the map by saying, Larssen, you go bot. We'll control the full top side of the map. There's no dragon for 2 minutes and Herald spawning soon. So I guess Rogue's plan here is get top tier 1, keep their bot lane around mid, or at least keep them being able to move and cover Larssen, and then play for Herald. You're seeing here, Malrang's playing top side, but look at what Comp and Trymbi are doing. Push in mid and now cover their weak side. So in essence, they're not losing on any side and they're forcing bot now as well.
Over the wall, Matty caught by all the CC. Trymbi making it look like a point and click.
Oh, BDS don't have any winning sides since the start of the game. Rogue have just been in full domination. They need to just commit numbers on one side. They have 3 people bot, 1 person mid, 1 person top. They need to really just go 4-man on one side and try to force something. They do have control around bot, 1 minute on Dragon. I think with the level 11 Akali, Adam should push out and they should try to force something. There goes the TP.
The flash out from Trymbi, but they're going to get a TP coming out as well. So overall, not too bad for Rogue.
Matty can take over mid. There's the Herald for Rogue, and now it's just simple League of Legends, isn't it? 2 dragons under their pockets. We can't see the second, of course, but all that happens now for Rogue is just drop Herald mid, get mid push, take the dragon. So and BDS need to make sure they push bot, put numbers through bot, and then contest this dragon, because they still have vision around it. That's probably their last bastion of hope. If you're against the Soul Point team, Rogue will take all your outer towers. You really can't fight the fourth. You'll have no vision.
And the problem is, Caedrel, if you're xMatty right now, you're level 8, that's a level 12 Jayce on the opposite side who almost has 2 items completed. That Ryze is strong, that Lucian strong, that's an Imperial mandate done for Nami. Where is it even safe for you to farm at this point in the game? You can see 3 members of Rogue standing in the mid lane just to make sure that xMatty can grab some waves, and they have to be careful here. Malrang and Comp push forward. xMatty could be in trouble, but they are going to make it out.
Yeah, they still have some vision around bots, so they can use these pinks, but I think Rogue are just going to pop the Herald soon. 10 seconds on the Dragon. Larssen has the bot push. BDS need to look for something soon. Limit has ult up soon. Cinkrof has kick flash. Maybe they can look for Trymbi. They got his flash earlier on. But here comes the stock standard textbook League of Legends play from Rogue. Just herald mid and move to Drake. Odoamne doesn't have TP. That's the only good thing for BDS here. They could look for a 5v4 if Rogue overextend.
Well, getting lower, but they're not going to be able to burn it down quite in time. Will break the tower. Okay, comp relatively low on mana, something to keep track of. And as you highlighted earlier, Trymbi no flash, Cinkrof with the kick flash up and available. But Malrang not afraid to step forward. Larssen and NUCLEARINT battling it out on the bottom side, but keep your eyes on that TP cooldown for Larssen as well. It's unleashed now, and Larssen will have it available. NUCLEARINT gonna have to wait at least 2 more minutes on his.
Yeah, Odoamne base is running out towards bot side. 2 items on the Jayce. We'll see if BDS find anything here. They have got a lot of burst, they have got a lot of engage. It's just, can they find a target? Larssen's trying to take a base here. TP back to the Drake with his spike. Adam's going to TP bot. The 5v5 will happen. BDS are going through bot. Cinkrof has a good position. Rogue needs to be careful about that. I think they should even target Trymbi. I think the amount of burst this Nami gives to the Lucian is so high. Rogue going to play it slow and push midway for now. Larsen's going to TP back to bot tower. A little bit split from his team here on the front to back, but maybe he can find some kind of flank.
BDS trying to force the 5v5. If they can isolate a single member, maybe they get something done, but limit's so low before the fight even kicks off. Trymbi throwing the ultimate in, splitting the entire team. Cinkrof now isolated in the pit. He's ready to leap over the wall. Odoamne getting away. He's been exhausted. Maybe they can get something done. That's going to be NUCLEARINT taking one, but what is it going to cost him? NUCLEARINT playing clean in the Shroud, but as the Shroud fades, NUCLEARINT will fall. Cinkrof out and over the wall. Adam trying to get something done. It's a scattered mess of a fight, but it is Rogue who are coming out on top. Not only do they get the Dragon, not only do they get Limit, Adam set to fall. Cinkrof set to fall, and it's an absolute slaughter in the river. Cinkrof, the only surviving member of BDS in the end. And lost, of course, Adam. Nope, that's the flash. That's all it's going to take. Rogue domination.
Yeah, they're sitting on 3 dragons as well, and I thought this fight was pretty much over the second the Nami ult pushed Matty into Larssen, and Larssen instantly blew him up, but huge props to NUCLEARINT and Cinkrof doing so much work in the back line. Malrang's going to get the red buff as well. Thumbs up from Cinkrof. There was signs of life in that fight from BDS. They just needed a couple inches more to actually deny the soul. So let's watch this again. Watch the Nami ult. It pushes Matty towards the north, to the right side of this fight, into Larssen. And Larsen's over the wall and he's thinking, wow, that's a free kill. Jinx is dead. So from that point, I thought, wow, the fight's basically over. But watch NUCLEARINT into the backline, gets onto Odoamne, solo kills him. Follow-up from Limit's not bad, but then he actually gets over the wall and kills Trymbi too. So maybe BDS could have got it, but that just wasn't enough still. And Cinkrof doesn't get the 50-50 smite when he comes back over the wall.
Yeah. Oh, such a close exchange, but Malrang queues up, has the Q, has the smite, more than enough damage, and while maybe if it was a 2v2, BDS could have tried to pull something off here. Adam just forced to run away there. And such a difficult game, even with the fumble on the pillar, it just means that Malrang has to burn that extra flash. And,
yeah.
Well, we were worried about Rogue, are they going to have enough engage options, but they're so far ahead now that BDS is going to have to fight into them on this next Drake, so they don't even need them.
So Larssen did go for the Seraph, so going for a more damage-oriented Ryze build, expecting some kind of Zhonya's into Rabadon's Void Staff for him. Not going to go for the Fimble Winter. It does mean he's a little bit squishier against champions like Graves, Lee, and Akali. Could be good, actually, to go Fimble Winter build this game, because, I mean, they have so much AD damage. Most of it's coming from a tank Akali, the AP damage, and now they're just going to move into bot play for this bot tower. The good news for BDS is they have objective bounties, so if they can trade something on the map, in terms of towers, that's beneficial for them. But this bot tower is actually dead already.
Adam, no TP available, no flash. Gonna try to back in the brush here, but Malrang can be pretty confident.
Oh, sneaky, sneaky Adam! Oh, he's out! I can't believe you got away there.
Okay, tell me you're a former Fnatic top laner without telling me you're a former Fnatic top laner right there.
Alcove Gaming. Alcove Gaming. Oh. He was as good as dead there. 3 members of Rogue and no tower to run to, no TP to get out, but Malrang didn't check the alcove. That's just a sign for everyone in solo queue. Check the alcoves.
Yeah. Also a reminder, this Akali build, really, really busted, but if you weren't abusing it on 11 or 12-1, it's too late on 12-2. Very powerful, lots of damage as you saw in the last fight, and means that we need to even more focus on NUCLEARINT in the fights to come because xMatty is still incredibly far behind.
Well, there goes the bot tier 2. Rogue's gonna force in mid. Adam no flash. Comp's going aggressive.
Keeping in big damage. Adam gonna try to go back into the fog, but there's the wave, the knock-up, and the death. Easy pickup there for Comp and Rogue.
Yeah, Rogue's playing on 2 lanes, mid and bot. Yes, they lost top tower, but they got a bot tier 2, and they will get a mid tier 2 on the next wave. So objective bounty over to BDS, great, but they're actually playing from ahead. They're not trading evenly. So good macro here from Rogue. We'll get this mid tier 2. And Dragon spawning in around 1 minute 50 seconds. It's just a matter of time before Rogue force it. What BDS want to do is just get as much resources, gold, XP, anything for 1 minute 50 seconds from now. That's when the game will be decided. If they can deny the soul and ace Rogue and get a Baron, they're more than back in this game. But the second that soul falls into Rogue's hands, as the Armut once tweeted, it's 10v5.
Yeah, that's absolutely going to be the case. And we saw it yesterday in Excel versus Misfits. all these leads that you build in the early game can be taken away in an instant if you mess up that fight, if you mess up a dragon around this time, when it can also lead to the Baron. But that said, Rogue are so incredibly far ahead. It's 6k gold lead. It's 3 Drakes. It's absolute domination thus far. Now there's a collector, there are items coming in.
Oh, the rockets.
But the side lanes are a nightmare right now for BDS, I won't lie. I don't think there's anyone who can walk up and go toe-to-toe. Maybe NUCLEARINT can go toe-to-toe with Odoamne or Larssen, but Adam certainly going to struggle.
Yeah, the problem is BDS's late game is this Jinx, xMatty on the Jinx, but when your Jinx is not even 2 items at 22 minutes, has to build plated steel caps, level 11, 0-3, down 40 CS, it's a real struggle to get that Jinx back into the game. Has a lot of wave clear though, but I mean, the second they lose neutrals, that's just the way the game works. Vedius was talking about on the desk. This meta is all about team fights and early dragons and stacking those dragons and forcing those dragons. And that's what Rogue's going to do. 40 seconds. BDS looking for some kind of vision. Maybe look for a pick onto Larssen before it spawns. Get a 5v4. Make Rogue have to fight it. And then that's your way back in the game. Because in a straight 5v5, they're going to have to clutch it out with some kind of leasing kick.
Yep. And they got pressure on the bottom side. It looks like Rogue are more than willing to give up that bot lane tier 1 to make sure that they can push through mid and come into the pit as 5, strong and ready. 20 seconds, the timer you need to keep your eyes on. Checking in. Summoner spell is going to be up for just about everybody. Limits regular flash coming up. Adam's flash on the way. TP's up and available as well. So all major cooldowns outside of Odoamne, TP are up and available as he just used it mid. Kick goes in. Cinkrof has to be careful about that one. Early pillar, long cooldown there. Maybe something that can be exploited.
Adam's TP'd in. This will be it. Odoamne looking for some poke. Will only hit Cinkrof for now. Limit's going
forward on the limit in the midst of the entire team. That's the wave, though. It's going to hit all 5 members. Trymbi fighting the disengage. NUCLEARINT trying to get some work done. He's invisible in the shroud, but what else can he do? Rogue might just be too strong. The kick goes in, but the Q does not land. Cinkrof isolated and off to the side. Trymbi still standing. NUCLEARINT can't even finish that one. 5 up for Rogue. They are simply too far ahead.
Yeah, Limit pulls the trigger. He knows they're going to get poked out. Just Hail Mary engage and go in with NUCLEARINT and Cinkrof. The problem is Rogue has cleanse on comp. Gale Force away, dashes away. There's the Chemtech Soul. There's the Ryze ult to the Baron. And they're going to have absolutely every neutral objective in the game. And when they come out of base, BDS just won't be able to match it.
We talked about it. That was the moment. That was the one shot. Sadly for BDS, they do not hit it. They do not connect. They are not able to get that dragon to turn it into anything else.
Oh, they want Adam as well. Larssen's going to TP behind him.
I mean, they smell blood in the water. A lot of them just completed major items. They don't have any reason to back here. Larssen now zooming in. He's slightly slowed. They're not going to be able to finish that kill off in the end.
Very close to getting it, but let's just look at this replay again. Limit sees the shock blast, hits onto Cinkrof, and he realizes if that hits my AD carry in 10 seconds time, it's over. Just go in. Gets onto comp. Q is good, but the second he tosses the ult, the cleanse comes out, dash away. Has Gale Force as well. Worst case scenario, Limit's popped instantly. NUCLEARINT gets a little bit of CC on him. Larsen's just zoning away. 3 members. Zhonya's to buy time. And then by the time his team catches up, Cinkrof can't really look for anything. Any kick in the world there. 5-man kick will do absolutely nothing. Trymbi almost dies on the side to NUCLEARINT, but his team saves him. And just that's it.
Yeah,
Rogue just going to push in now.
And I think if you look at that BDS team fight and you go, what are they thinking? You got Larssen on the flank, you're leaping at Nami. They have to fight there. There's no other option. So they just have to pray. They have to flip it because if they give up that soul, if they walk out of that pit, or if, as you highlighted, if they wait for another empowered shock blast, they're going to lose the fight anyway. So they have to go. But it was never a winning fight to be taken.
Yeah, that's the way the game works, right? You have to take like a 90-10 fight to the enemy team and just hope that that 10% is what gets you over the line. That fight was almost like a 5% chance, I think. BDS looking for the Hail Mary engage. Doesn't work. That's the thing. That's the shock blast that Limit was scared of. He knows he has to go in again. Cinkrof's behind them, but do they even have any gas left in the tank?
Cinkrof kicking him back. NUCLEARINT into the midst of the team now going into the Shroud. But it's going to get burned down before he can even get any damage done. Malrang's ulti doing some work there.
Yeah, that's it. So much poke coming out of this Jayce. Odoamne just winning from lane, gets the solo kill, gets the tower, lots of resources funneled into him. And we talked about Rogue not having a lot of CC to deal with NUCLEARINT, but when you have this much damage, it doesn't even matter. One auto attack from comp with his passive, NUCLEARINT's as good as half HP. Look at the damage, they're just going to dash forwards now.
Limit goes in and goes down. Odoamne frontlining, but again, xMatty so far behind. Those auto attacks are just tickling, barely doing anything. Larssen
are they going to end?
I think they just end. They're so far ahead. It's a 10k gold lead, Caedrel. They have Chemtech Soul. Adam backing off. Has to be careful here. Pillarlius laid down behind him. Malrang just continues to leap forward. As long as that cannon is standing, Rogue can push
could TP in if he wants to. He could base and TP with Baron. They have a wave. Yeah, he's going to do it. Yeah, they're going to say, screw it, just go for the end. But now Larsen's ulting him away. Wait, what happened? Hey, wait, what just happened? What? Okay, so the Ryze ult won't take people who are recalling because then you control your teammates in solo queue. But luckily, Odo has Nash. He was stuck between 5 people for a second there if he didn't get out. Well, and luckily he did.
and again, if you're wondering what happened there, we'll find out in the comms later. But I suspect that is in the business what we like to call a little bit of BM.
I think Odo says, I'm gonna base in TP, let's end, and Larsen's like, no. Let's just go top and take the inhib and play it slow and just end this game quick and it's simple.
Yeah,
we don't have to rush. Like,
okay. Well, xMatty needs to rush right back to the fountain. Luckily, he's got the flash and the traps.
And flash used. Baron buff is off, I believe, but Rogue's gonna push in top. Look for top inhib, play it smart, play it simple, don't overextend, don't give them shutdowns, don't complicate the game. Just close it out. Trymbi even got a blue pot for good measure.
Yeah. Well, that's about all she wrote. They say it's not over till the fat lady sings, but the vocal warm-ups are done. She's starting. You know, she's gone through the scales. It feels like that's going to be it. NUCLEARINT on the side can do a lot of damage to comp.
There he goes, limit.
Cinkrof stepping forward. If he doesn't land a miracle kick here, it's not going to matter, though.
That's 2 ultimates down for BDS. 3 ultimates down, actually. Adam had to use the ult to wave clear, so next wave, BDS, what do? Drop top inhib and just try and play defensive. Hold the Nexus line, farm till late game, as they say in solo queue, guys, so we can win!
Cinkrof going in. It's a split call. There's nothing for him to do. Cinkrof's going to go down, and that should be it. And it's sad for BDS because there's really no right calls. And the best they can do is go all together into the fire. But it does not look like it's going to work out. Odoamne isolated off to the side. 2v1ing Adam and xMatty. NUCLEARINT going in. He's trying to finish off Comp. Comp is ticking. Comp is burning. Trymbi is still up and alive. Ryze ultimate coming through. Adam will finally get one, but the zombie Odo is there to finish the game. Rogue taking the win.
Yeah, just decisive from start to finish. Actually decisive from draft to finish, really, isn't it? 3 winning lanes, all worked out. Juggled them excellently. Good play from Malrang all around. Just so you can see on this camera, that sigh of relief. I know the stress of playing with 3 winning lanes because you know they all need you. But he juggled them well, playing through bot mainly. Odo winning top on his own, and just clean game from start to finish. I mean, BDS didn't really have many options the second they started falling behind, and it just got worse and worse and worse until eventually it cracked, and down goes their Nexus.
Absolutely. And it's been a difficult road so far for the side of BDS. But of course, Rogue, again, 5-0. Impressive, impressive. It's hard because the old Rogue was also good in best of ones, but this is a brand new team. So we need to give these players the respect they deserve because it's crazy to be 5-0 at this point in this bit. Of course, Kia player of the game. Let us know who you think deserves the most praise. Malrang, Larssen, Trymbi are your options. I don't know.
I'm a jungle main, so I'm biased.
I'm a Trymbi main, so I'm biased. Wow, that was too strong.
Poor Larssen.
Support main? I don't know. After the break, Laure's going to be joined by Rogue Trymbi. They remain undefeated in the LEC Spring season. We'll be back soon.
Welcome back to the LEC. Rogue is now on a 5-game win streak at the end of week 2. Trymbi, thank you so much for joining me again for an interview. I want to ask about supports and champion pools because you had the first win on Nami, and I noticed that Enchanters, even though we've been told that they were strong, didn't find so much success in the LEC so far. How do you explain that?
Okay, so hello. First of all, I'm very sorry for the pauses and everything. It was really annoying, and most of the time it was from our side, so that's really unlucky, and I'm genuinely sorry that people actually had to wait because this game became boring even from our perspective, honestly, so due to pauses. But secondly, I don't know, it's really weird right now because obviously you can sometimes pull off stuff like this, right? But I think enchanters are much harder to play than the the supports that actually initiate. So it's not so easy to just pull off a good performance with it. So I think that's also like one cause why we don't see so many enchanters right now.
I see. Yeah, maybe it takes time to get used to it. And thanks for the apologies, but you can't apologize for Berlin internet. So this one is not on you, I assume. Focusing more on Rogue now. It doesn't feel like you've been challenged yet, really, per se, but you're playing Fnatic next week. Do you think this will be the first maybe good challenge for Rogue, and why?
Yeah, for sure. Fnatic is a really good team, and I'm really glad that we'll get to see how good we are as a team, right? Obviously, it's a regular season at the end of the day, so it doesn't really matter who's gonna win or not. It's all about who's gonna be the best for playoffs. But I think it's gonna be a fun game. I really hope we're able to showcase that we're not only winning against those teams that people find not as good as the teams I don't know, G2, Fnatic, Vitality, right? These teams.
That's really interesting. And you mentioned something I actually wanted to mention because, as you said, playoffs matter in the end, that you want to win the splits, obviously. So how do you make sure you keep on going with the good performance you had so far throughout the splits?
Well, we just need to, it's really hard to say because if I knew exactly, then probably we would just stomp everything, right? And for playoffs, we would be the best team, right? But I don't know, it's just, there's a lot of factors. I genuinely believe that we should just maintain the same atmosphere that we have right now in Rogue and just be the same people as we are, and just be as open as possible and just try to think through stuff and find the solutions that we need for the whole regular season, and in playoffs it's gonna somehow work. I'm sure, because it's always like that. I think that the team that is the best it's able to maintain good atmosphere and just be able to mentally get rid of all this negative stuff and everything, and just go through that and fix the issues around it. Then I'm sure this team is gonna be the one that's gonna be looking like the strongest for sure.
Well, one thing is sure is that you have the best mindset to be successful. Trymbi, once again, thank you so much for the lovely interview, and best of luck in week 3. We'll see you next week. And that's all for us on this side of the stage. We will be back with Fnatic versus Misfits after the break, but first, we will listen to the Warner Song of the Week. It is End of Me by Billy Talent, which is also available on the official LEC playlist on Spotify. Stay tuned.